Everyone will have to go through a rough time. No one will be able to avoid the fight. They'll appear before your eyes and bring destruction upon everything.
You really expect us to believe that? Don't tell me even national-level hunters won't be enough to stop them. Give us proof. Otherwise, we won't be able to believe what you're saying.
Prove it.
Yes, give us proof.
Proof! We want proof!
Chairman Woo plays a tape of Jay Mills and explains that hunters have been gathering with him as their leader, and it seems that other strong hunters from other countries have also been preparing for a raid. He asks what Jin is planning to do now, and Jin responds that for now, he will head to China. It's impossible for him to face all 8 armies at once, so he need to get rid of the threat that's closest to Korea first, since they will be the biggest threat to his family. He'll take care of the other monarchs after he does so. The longer the battle goes on, the higher the chances of his winning the war. Jin says that he heard the government officials would be out to greet him, but it seems Liu Zhigang is here instead. Liu responds that they were making some stupid placards, so he decided to greet Jin himself. Liu leads him, and Jin notices that the gate is visible from the airport. Zhigang affirms that it is the colossal gate that recently appeared, and these are the 100,000 hunter army of China. Jin thinks that since there are 100,000 of them maybe. Liu interrupts the thought, saying that this is their elite army, where they not only have numbers, but also skilled individuals. Liu says that it seems it will start soon as Jin orders his army forth. Liu looks over as ranks on ranks of Jin's army are summoned. Liu thinks that he's on another level and questions if those things will be falling from the sky. He asks if they're all his summons. Beru states that the left side of the king is his place and questions who dares take his place, but Jin elbows him, telling him Liu's on their side. He acknowledges Jin is able to communicate with them as hunters yell for the gates opening. The massive gate breaks, and Jin watches in wait. Belian calls it strange, since he doesn't feel any presences from the gate. Realizing, Jin asks about the other locations, but Belian says they all seem to be the same. Top-ranking hunters turn to ashes in an instant. Jin tells Adam that he still has time, so run away while he can. Adam reports an endless number of dragons and beasts coming from the sky. All kinds of demonic beasts have gathered in one place. Jin thinks that now that it has come to this, he can at least save Adam if he just controls the shadow he put on him. Grabbing his arm, an orc says that they will be teleporting now, but Adam looks over as the monarch asks where he thinks he's going. This arc continues. Informing them the Shadow Monarch has appeared on the eastern side, Yogamont asks if they should rally their entire forces and attack him, while Blondie says he can't feel his shadow army, so he is acting without. The Dragon Monarch wonders if he is planning on defeating all the troops here by himself and adding them to his army. It seems that he wants to avoid a direct fight and buy time. Shadow Monarch, what are you planning? Tens of thousands of new Shadow Warriors have been added to the Shadow Army, like an enormous tsunami that consumes everything. The shadows steadily overwhelm the battlefield. Blood and limbs fly as Jin carves up demonic beasts with a tornado attack. He slides to a halt only to meet a giant's club that destroys a few buildings. But Jin bullets toward the giant, slicing his foot clean at the ankle in spectacular fashion. The Canada-made Shadow Army rush and overwhelm the giant. While the dog clamps on its neck, Jin looks up to a sky full of dragons. He wonders if the army of ruin started to move. However, he can't feel the Dragon Monarch, so he must not intend to move out yet. There's no need to be disappointed. There's a lot of time left. If he's hesitant to move out, he'll simply give him a reason to. He says, "Arise!" and the giant's arm bursts up, grabbing a dragon straight out of the sky. Flame charging, a flame blasts right through the shadow, and a dragon questions, how dare these puppets made of mana try to stop the Dragon Monarch, and declares that he will get rid of them. However, Jin mocks the winged beast before dropping from his sky horse and chopping through the dragon's neck. The Dragon Monarch informs the others that Jin is growing stronger by the minute and orders them to attack, but tells the Monarch of Transfiguration to remain there and prepare a surprise attack on the Shadow Army. Don't miss out, he says.
The path of the Lord of Chaos. Burn the Erd Tree to the ground and incinerate all that divides and distinguishes. May chaos take the world. May chaos take the world!
Standing before each other, Antares thinks that he can't get in contact with the Monarch of Iron Body and questions if he betrayed him or it's part of Jin's sorcery. Breathing fire, he blasts a beam right at Jin Woo that burns through the whole block, leaving absolute devastation in its wake. Collecting himself, Antares looks up, noticing Jin in the sky, who says, "Arise." Demonic creatures and dragons pour from Jin Woo's shadow as Antares nonchalantly prepares. Liu Jigang discombobulates a giant and says that things like giants aren't much a problem as long as they're not fighting at sea. All the magic power over land is trembling. There are probably tens of thousands of hunters confronting endless numbers of magic beasts everywhere, especially since he can feel his entire body getting pricked by the magic power at this distance. Charging up, Antares slashes an attack that devastates the surrounding area. Standing among his flames, he asks if those good-for-nothing soldiers are all Jin has. He sent his main force to the Monarch of Iron Body and tried to fight him with these mere troops. But looking over and noticing a gate as well as Jin Woo running, Antares launches toward him. Darting in and crossing through the gate, he is nonchalantly alarmed as he's surrounded by the entire Shadow Army. He realizes that Jin has already absorbed the troops of the Monarch of Iron Body and corners his eyes to see Belian and Beru have even taken him down. Noting Jin defeated the Monarch of Iron Body's troops first, then came after him. Antares applauds him. However, he calls the Shadow Monarch absurd. Yogamont looks down while floating before many gates. "Follow me," Jin says while grabbing the Dragon Monarch. Antares wonders if it was all for this moment as shadows completely envelop him. At Jin's castle island, the two pop from a shadow bubble, and Jin explains that this is a place on the opposite side of the world from where his army is. Antares brains that an all-out war would be more advantageous to Jin if he had that many troops, but it would also eat up all his magic power much faster, and calls his plan to bring him here alone amazing. Questioning if that's his castle, Jin affirms, and the monarch said that considering it belongs to the Shadow Monarch, it's not that impressive. Even so, Jin says he thought that the castle would be perfect to commemorate Antares' death. The Dragon Monarch says that this fight would be about whether he can last until his troops find him or not. Facing off, Antares turns into a massive dragon, while Jin summons his shadow army. Antares charges a blast when his mouth is suddenly wrapped shut. Looking down, he sees Bellion reeling him in as giants reach for the dragon and pin his neck to the ground. Tusk casts a telekinetic spell and slams his hand down further, pinning the massive monarch. Beru and Greed jump up and zoom down, smashing into the dragon's face, while Igris stands atop his head, stabbing his blade and electrocuting Antares. Jin flies above, thinking that it's working pretty well, but the monarch calls it amusing as he likes fights where he overwhelms the enemy with a significant difference in numbers. But he does find the opposite situation quite amusing. Jin spooks as Antares uses the true dragon fear. Shockwaves blow through the battlefield, pressuring shadows, as Jin realizes that the dragon fear attack from the King of the Dragons is disabling his control over the shadow soldiers and cancels summon. Charging up an attack, he fires an epically massive blast beam. Kaisel returns to the abyss as Jin screams for him to come back. The beam goes through the mountain, clears the whole island, and explodes miles offshore. The monarch stands tall, making clear this is the real thing. The avatar of destruction, who doesn't hesitate to sacrifice oneself for the sake of a raging war. The amalgam of blood, scream, madness, and destruction. A being created solely for the purpose of war. That is he, Antares, the king of dragons and the monarch of destruction. Jin thinks that the enormous amount of mana from when the king of giants died must have sunk into the ground, and yet it didn't last against that attack. Even undying soldiers would perish immediately if they were to take a direct hit of his breath. Antares transforms while telling the Shadow Monarch that he doesn't need to be nervous. When Jin grabbed his arm, he could have easily broken free, but he didn't, because Jin impressed him by driving him into a corner, and as a fellow monarch, he wanted to have a quiet conversation with him. If Jin Woo has inherited the previous Shadow Monarch's memories, then he must already know that their ultimate enemy isn't this world, but exists beyond the skies. The army of the rulers. Their only meaning in existence is to destroy the monarchs who were born within darkness, and the Shadow Monarch is not an exception to this. He was planning on eliminating him and preparing to fight with them, but he's changed his mind after seeing how Jin fights. He possesses a different set of talents compared to Ashbourne.
I am the record of your bitter struggle. I am the evidence of your resistance. I am the reward of your pain. I am death. I am eternal rest. And I am also terror. I am you.
And he saw their glorious victory using his talents. He tells Jin that if he wants him to let his family live, he will do so. And if he wants to preserve his country, he will do so as well. If he wishes for him and his soldiers to depart from this land, he will leave quietly, become the owner of this land. And he's not talking about the castle in the hills. He means the owner of the entire planet. He possesses such qualifications. Holding out his hand, Jin looks at it, then his face, as Antares says, that all he has to do is hold his hand. If they combine forces to defeat the soldiers of the rulers, his family, country, and this entire planet will regain peace and freedom. How about it, he asks. Jin opens his mouth before telling him not to make him laugh. He's expected to believe him when his eyes are screaming that he wants to kill Jin. Laughing as Jin prepares, Antares guesses that he couldn't hide it, and this was his final mercy to him. Antares transforms and swipes a massive dragon arm at Jin, which crushes the ground ground beneath him as he summons Kaisel. Transforming and turning his gaze, Antares' blast breaths them in the sky. Jin commands Kaisel to go downwards toward the massive beam-firing beast and jumps off his back, dialing in and activating a twirling attack before Bei blading down the monarch's neck. Falling back on Kaisel, he looks back, wondering if it didn't leave a single scratch. Antares says that he can't be hurt with something like that, and Jin tells Kaisel to get out of there. But the monarch uses dragon fear, effectively disabling Kaisel. Jin realizes the situation as Kaisel wraps his tail around him and slingshots him away to safety just before getting blast breathed by the monarch. Steam hisses on the shoreline as Antares says that he probably won't die by something like that. Jin jumps to his neck and grabs on with telekinesis, only to realize that his skin feels like magma. Rapidly stabbing him, Antares pulls his hand back to slap Jin. However, he dodges and says, "Arise," calling forth 3 sizable dragons. One bites Antares' neck, while the others breathe fire and blast him from both sides. Jin wonders if the fires of the ancient dragons that Belian used to lead ineffective against him, and notes that he's got unimaginably more power and defense compared to everyone he's fought so far. He can't use his usual way of fighting against the King of Dragons. He needs stronger power, a power that can defeat an armored mountain with only his bare hands. Wait! Armor! Jin focuses his power while Antares finishes burning through an ancient dragon and mocks his use of such a lowly shadow. Looking up, he wonders what the power of darkness is doing surrounding Jinwoo. Armor. He can use the power of the darkness to put on armor, to make a bigger and sturdier dark armor, to make it so big that every living thing in the world can see it. A massive storm of dark power swirls as Antares questions if it's astralization and call it impossible. The Shadow Monarch was originally one of the fragments of light, so they shouldn't have any other forms. That should be his original form. It can't be. Did that bastard summon the power of death onto Earth? How did he do that? He was just a normal human up until recently. How is he able to control the power of death to this extent? This is me, Jin thinks. This is the true strength that the Shadow Monarch Ashborn has left for him. From within his body, from the inside of this enormous body, he can feel an incredible and unimaginable amount of power endlessly flowing through him. Antares uses blast breath, and Jin puts his hand up, splitting it in half with a counterattack that electrocutes the Dragon Monarch. The 2 powerhouses face off before simultaneously running forth and clashing. This arc continues. From behind and blasts into Antares, only to get caught in a force field as he snickers, questioning if Jin thought a dagger made from dragon's tooth could harm the King of Dragons. He asks if Jin finds the fight between a flame born within darkness and a darkness born within the light amusing, and comments that it seems the fight is nearing its end. Jin affirms, saying he can see the end, and dashes toward Antares, who states the army of destruction doesn't even need to find this place, since he will raise their morale by beheading the foolish monarch. Jin responds that the sun darkens the shadows and shocks Antares as his summons appear, holding Antares in place as he screams that he will rip Jin to pieces and turn him into Drake food, and will give him a miserable death for resisting against the King of Dragons until the final moment. Sung Jin Woo poetically summons his father's dagger and cuts downward, slashing the monarch while wondering if he can see his own death. The sky cracks as Antares' upper body splits in 2. Saying he didn't expect that one, Antares tells Jin he's certain he didn't see a gate when he first arrived, and an enormous amount of energy would have been required to connect the 2 worlds. So how is the ruler's army here, he asks. Was he aiming for this the entire time? To distort space with the clash of great powers, bringing his allies from the other world here. The reason he distracted the army, and the reason he brought him here. He simply thought it was because he wanted to have an undisturbed fight, but there's no way he could have communicated with the rulers. However, Jin denies this, explaining the vessels that they lend powers to were still here. Antares figures out he used the vessels to prepare a gate to this place and found a way to win the war, even if he were to lose the battle. It's Antares' complete loss for only looking at the smaller battle. Jin asks if it's him. If he's the one who commanded the Monarch of White Flames and Beast Monarch to attack the Shadow Monarch. Antares questions if the Monarch of White Flames told him, as we saw in the memories, and and Jin responds that Ashbourne wanted him to send Antares his regards. Angrily charging at Jin, the monarch suddenly stops as it's revealed he's been impaled by the rulers. Looking up, he sees the brightest fragment of luminosity and says that the world is covered by such bright light and such dark shadows he didn't have any chance of winning from the start. He shall wait within the true eternal rest, not the illusionary eternal rest that Ashbourne created. Jin responds not to worry, as he will see him again soon enough. As Antares fades away, the ruler lands telling Jin that he's ended their war and doesn't know how he could ever show his appreciation. Jin Woo answers that he doesn't know if this could be called showing his appreciation, but he has a request. It's something only they can do for him. The ruler says that he will do everything within his power to aid him, and Jin remarks that just once more. Could they use the cup of reincarnation just once more? This arc continues.
Stand against him.
They will fall as well.